So yes, I did. I had a couple of friends who still are very successful actresses, and there's always that feeling that they're patronizing you, and you have to sort of wrestle with that. But you know what? There are worse things in life. People in Rwanda are probably suffering worse than dignities, especially gay guys in Rwanda at the moment. So there's always that sort of balance that goes on, you know.
Due to our extraordinary filing system...
Wait. I just lost you. Wait, hang on. There you are. Okay, there you are. Right, got you.
Due to our wonderful filing system and Ken being willing to go dig through it, I happen to have the essence to which you referred but could not remember. You want to hear it? It is. I really enjoy having a fascinating conversation, and I'm capable of that. So why don't you just fondle my breast for a moment and get that out of the way, and we'll have done with it.
Didn't just show my titties.
But this is another thing. It brings up another question. Because you were blessed as a human being, and I suspect rather early in life with, you know, breasts.
Okay.
And yeah, and they become in Hollywood, you know, I mean that's So, what do you want to say about that? About what we value and what we don't notice, and you know, have you comments? You may not.
You know, I just frankly, all I can say is at my age, I'm delighted to have knockers, and you know, and to have a shape to my body still. I'm delighted. When I was in my 20s, I was embarrassed as anything about it. I hated the attention that it got, because it had nothing to do with who I was. And I'm not saying, I mean, everybody knows how this feels. No, I love it. And if anybody's going to be impertinent about it, I can slap them upside the head, and, you know, I know how to deal with it. But which makes me remember how not so long ago somebody exposed themselves to me, which is rather flattering at my age. Should I tell you a story? It's very short.
We have other people with story. Is it very short?
I'll be back so I can tell it.
Yeah, we're going to save that because I have a feeling I may have to bring you back.
Okay.
All right. One other thing I want to ask you, because I want to move on to the other folks, and you know, Barbara always has that other interview waiting in the. You know. Here's the other thing I want to know about. Specifically, because I remember very well, Karen at a certain point really did walk away. It was, as she said, enough. And she pursued some advanced education, which eventually, after some hard work, led to being a registered psychotherapist. And she decided to come to this coast to practice that, because Santa Barbara was an attractive location, and I think she wanted to be back. You know, I don't know what all contributed to Santa Barbara. There may have been a romance involved, as I recall. Could have been. But at any point, at some point after doing that, establishing practice and having clients and all of that, that calling came through that led to both performance and then the creation of Speaking of Stories, which was a spoken word venue that Karen created and got grants for and did all of that in Santa Barbara, and was very successful. I really want to talk about that moment when, after coming to Santa Barbara and practicing, the calling came back up. When you started to have to perform again.
It was, I mean, there were actually probably two parts. I started to write when I moved to Santa Barbara. There's a very big writers' conference, and I started to write, and I was quite successful writing prose, not plays. And I read my own writing, and pretty quickly people figured out that I knew how to read. And at that time, I don't know if anybody of you have heard of Selected Shorts, which is a syndicated short story, celebrities reading short stories. It's syndicated on NPR. And a guy had started doing a version of that in Santa Barbara. And so I went to him and I said, well, you know, somebody suggested that I come to you because I can read. And he said, no, I only want stars. I said, fine, okay. And I wasn't at all bothered because I had no axe to grind about acting. I just could do it. And the long and short of it is he ended up asking me to do it because somebody dropped out at the last minute. And he gave me one of the more difficult stories to read. So out of nowhere, out of 15 years of not even going close to the stage, suddenly I had to act again. I can tell you that the week coming up to my performance, I threw up every day. I had constant diarrhea. I don't think I slept one wink, which is an indication to me that I was doing the right thing. It usually is. Sheer naked fear, which is how I feel every time I perform. I did that performance and it was wonderful fun, and you know, the fear immediately went away as soon as I went on stage. I felt like I stepped into warm bath water and I was having a ball. And then he called me the next day and said, "Why don't you become my artistic director?" Which came totally out of the blue, but it was sort of appealing to me. So that was sort of the first time that I went, okay, but I was still a social worker, I was still doing my private practice and blah, 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 blah. That was how I was earning my living. This was avocational. And then, about 2 years down the road, it was, again, the complicity of circumstances, which is usually what happens in my life, where I say I follow my inner promptings. I have to, because basically the outer world is kind of slapping me around the face. In this instance, my job just went to pieces, and I was miserable doing it. And at the same time, our little organization had become so successful, we'd had to move from the 150-seat house to a 300-seat house and do 2 performances every time we did it. And so we started to become a 501c3, which is the non-profit nomenclature for taxation purposes. And at that point, I jumped ship. I gave up all the bennies that I had in my social work job, etc., and decided to become this artistic director full-time on a measly salary. And that was when I was really clear. That was like the big thing, because I could incorporate the social work part of me, because I did an outreach program, the literary part of me, because it was to do with beautiful short story writing, and the acting part of me. And only I also got to be a producer and director, because I was running this whole thing. And I was so well used that I knew immediately that I was in the right place. And then 9 years later, after I'd been doing this for some time, and I'd gone to Kuala Lumpur and taught in colleges there, I mean, I really had sort of a celebrated time doing this. I realized that I needed to just stop being a boss and stop doing all of that stuff and become an actress. And again, that was just, I resisted it like mad. I did not want to do it. I didn't want to leave Santa Barbara. It's cozy, it's pretty. I owned a house there, blah, 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 but I just knew it. And so I came via you, Sammy, to New York. But they were very clear. I mean, the promptings were really clear. I never wanted them, but they were very clear.
And that is the segue that I'm going to use. That thing of that voice that we may or may not want, that keeps yakking at us, and those promptings. I want to thank you. I suspect people will give you a little hand. And I'm going to turn you off now.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
You can continue to listen if you like, all right? We just won't be watching you listen, all right?
Okay.
Okay. Good. All right. Thanks, guys, it's fun. It's fun with me. Because literally, I've known her since I was a child, almost. So, I want, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about why each of these people are here. Rob and I have known each other for a long time. And Rob came to class through another comic improv guy named Jeff, and he sent some of his friends, Rob being one, and Rob went through the process and was in acting class, and we were having fun together. He was also continuing as an improv performer, creating kinds of stuff, and his career has gone on to the creation of lots of things on television, primarily the Sarah Silverman Show, which he directs almost all the time.